Hello and welcome to IMHO. Today I'm talking to Slobodan Manic, known as Sani, about optimizing for AI agents. Slobodan is a website optimization consultant, co-founder of Web Performance Tools, and host of the No Hacks podcast with recent guests including Rand Fishkin, Dwayne Forrester, Jess Schultz, John Alderson, and many more, so it's worth checking out. So, Sane, over to you. You've written a five-part series on optimizing websites for AI agents. And so, for anybody who hasn't been following this as closely as you have, what's the single biggest thing that's changed in the last 6 months that means SEOs need to pay attention to?
Thank you for the wonderful intro. Let me start with that. The single biggest thing, and we can expand this to 6 to 9 months maybe, is that every major tech company has launched either a browser that has AI in it that can do things for you, or some kind of extension that gets into Chrome. Like Claude there's a plugin for Chrome that can do things for you, not just analyze web pages, summarize web pages, cite web pages, but actually perform operations. So it started with us going to AI and asking questions. Everyone has a favorite chatbot. This is 2022 to 2024, 25 maybe. And now AI is coming to us and meeting us where we are. And websites, from my testing and my work, I noticed that websites are nowhere near being ready for this shift because structurally, almost every website is broken.
I've actually got a theory that brand websites are becoming hubs and the central point that's going to connect all of your content assets live online. And, we might well move away from websites. But you've actually you've gone a step further than that with your thoughts, and you've written about websites essentially becoming optional for the end user with pages built by machines for machines and the actual interaction happening through closed system interfaces like ChatGPT, Chrome agents, MCP. Can you expand on that vision? How do you see online interactions developing, and what kind of time frame do you think we're realistically looking at?
So first, I'll say that this is not fully happening today. We don't have an internet where AI writes a page and AI visits a page. In theory, it could happen today as well, but this is still near to mid-future. This is not March 2026. The reason I think this will happen is simply because, again, what the major tech companies are doing. Google had, and you covered this at SCJ, Google had a patent granted in January that will let them use AI to rewrite a landing page for you if your landing page is not good enough. And then we have all these other companies, including Google, that in January, I think, announced Gemini browsing for you inside Chrome, that be rolling that out. So we have an end-to-end AI system that does everything while humans just wait for results. So I think website is not becoming, I wouldn't say unnecessary, absolutely not, because this is not going to fully replace humans browsing. People like to browse the internet, people like to read stuff online, people like to compare things. But just the same way as mobile traffic has not killed desktop traffic, even if it's taken a bigger share of traffic, overall higher percentage of overall traffic, while the desktop traffic is staying flat in terms of absolute numbers, I think this is another lane that will open where things will be happening without human being involved in every step of the decision. Timelines, I think within a year we can have this become a reality. Not majority, but we will have, if Google starts rewriting AI pages, landing pages using AI, we will see this happening probably 2027, if not sooner.
Yeah, I mean things are moving so fast right now. We can
Too
barely
fast.
we
Too
can
fast.
we can't get content out fast enough on the
Too
website
fast.
without it
Yep.
becoming out of date. It's just insane. So you wrote that you also recently wrote that checkout is becoming a protocol, not a page. If an AI agent can now buy on my behalf without ever loading a brand's website, what's that actually going to mean for how brands can build trust and differentiate when the customers never see in their site?
If you're building trust in the checkout page, you're doing it wrong. Let's start there. I firmly believe that this is not to do with AI. This is before AI. This is not the place. This was never the right place to build trust. Second, if you look at all the Shopify pages, every checkout page is the same. There's no trust built there. It's just a machine readable almost page that looks the same for everyone, for every brand. You're supposed to be doing your job before the user needs to pay you. I think we'll keep moving upstream, and I'm quoting Jono Alderson. the things he said on the podcast when I interviewed him, upstream engineering and moving upstream and doing work there and not on the website is the only way to move forward for anyone whose job is optimizing websites. That's SEO, that's CRO, that's content, that's anyone doing any kind of website work. Your website is a part of the equation. Your website is not the equation. And that's the biggest structural shift that people need to make to survive moving forward, I guess. I don't want to sound dramatic, but I think it's dramatic.
Well, yeah, it's dramatic times, and obviously AI is fast changing everything, and changing how we're going to interact online and with absolutely everything. Keeping all this in mind, what do you recommend SEOs and brands can actually start to consider now that's going to help them transition over the next year?
I think what I just said about website not being the key part anymore, I think focusing your efforts as much on the offsite ecosystem as you are on your website. I think that is the first thing that needs to happen for every single brand because websites, think of it this way. If your website was your storefront, and it was for decades, it was people come to you, people do the business there. It needs to be a warehouse and a storefront moving forward, or you're not going to survive. Simple as that. We had all those bookstores that were selling books in the 90s, and then Amazon shows up, and then you need to be a warehouse for fulfilled by like, all those things. You need to exist in two planes at the same time for the near future, at least. So focusing only on your website is, I believe, the most wrong thing you can do moving forward.
So, I mean, tell me about what are you working on right now? Where are the key areas you're really focusing in on?
My main focus is technical website optimization. So anything that will let the website be machine readable. And I'm working on a framework that it's basically work I do for clients, but a framework that's machine first architecture. Essentially, you don't build your website for humans until you've built it for machines, which means when you're working on a web page, a product page, there's no Figma, there's no design, there's no copy. You start with your schema. What is your schema supposed to say? What is the meaning of the page? You start with the meaning, and then from that, build into a web page as it's built for humans. The reason for that is it's similar to mobile first from 10, 15 years ago. That did not mean no desktop. That meant do the more difficult version of it first, and then do the easy thing and expand to the thing that you know already because trust me, it's a lot more complicated to add meaning and structure to a page that's already been designed with lorem ipsums and whatnot than to do it the other way. So this is my main area of focus. If I had to call it something, it's technical excellence. Your website need to be absolutely flawless, and then not only your website. So if you're saying something on your website, you better check all of your profiles everywhere online, what people are saying about you. It's really it's everything everywhere all at once, to use a movie analogy, but this is what optimization has become and what it needs to be.
Yeah, I mean, I know a lot of people are really freaking out with this transition and say, there's a lot of people saying, oh, AI optimization is optimizing for LLMs is completely different. It's a different approach, etc. And then there's obviously all the theory as well that SEO, technical SEO is still the foundation that is feeding the LLMs. Where do you
So
fall on
to
that?
people saying that it's different, hard disagree, the hardest possible disagree. And I think if you were doing things the right way, working on the foundations and checking every box essentially that has to be checked, it's not different at all. If your job was to find whatever works today that we know should not be working, like 6 months ago, we had people bombing Reddit with posts, and that was a geo strategy. They knew this should not work. They knew this was a silly strategy long term, but it worked for the moment, so people did it. If you avoid those kind of things, I think you'll be fine and everything is familiar. There's a reason my podcast is called No Hacks, and I started it in 2021. It's precisely because of this. Things that worked until they didn't. With AI in the mix, you just get exposed much faster and the consequences are much greater. There's nothing different other than those two things.
Yeah, I think the cycle is just moving a lot more
So
quickly.
Yep.
than it used to be. But I still feel that there's so much similarity with what's happening now than what happened at the foundation of the industry, 25, 30 years ago. We're feeling our way in the same way. Sorry, go on, you were going to
No,
say.
this is the reason why lately I've been interviewing a lot of the original SEO people. I have
Mm,
Dwayne Forrester, Ren
yeah,
Fishkin,
yeah.
John Alderson, Jess Schultz. They figured this out once, and
Mm,
maybe we should ask them how to figure it out
mm.
again.
Mm. Yeah, I mean, I don't know if you saw, I've interviewed a lot of the SEO
Yep,
pioneers, and
absolutely.
it was fascinating to do that. I mean, it was actually pre-AI when I started that whole series. And the reason I did it was to understand what happened in the past so that you can understand what's going to happen in the future. And the foundations are exactly the same. It's quite fascinating, really, when you get into it. So one last question, Sani. You said that vibe coding is a trap. Now, this is quite interesting. Everybody's, vibe. Hey, I was doing it at the weekend. I was vibe coding a bit of Python. I'm not technical. And you're saying that vibe coding is a trap and that deep work is the only moat left. So for the SEO practitioner listening who's feeling overwhelmed by all these changes, what's the one thing that they should actually go and do this week?
Uh, it's really the foundation. I hate to give the boring answer, but it's really fixing every single foundational thing that you have on your website or your website presence because we obsessed society, community, digital professionals obsessed over NA10. And then that stopped. And now there's Claude Code, and there's a next wave, and the next wave, and the next wave. There's always a new shiny toy to work on while your website doesn't work with JavaScript disabled. Just ignore all of that until you fixed every single broken foundation you have on your website, and then you can play with Claude Code. Claude Code can help you as well, but it can also make mistakes for you if you don't know what you're doing. I'm not saying I don't like the term vibe coding. I want to be very clear because it just suggests that you have no idea what you're doing and you're happy about it. That's the way that sounds to me. The concept of AI assisted coding is it's there, it's great, it's not going away, and I think it's a really good development. It helps dramatically. Now, vibe coding is it this that's what vibe coding is for me. But if you want to use AI to understand what you need to work on, to have it help you work on whatever you're fixing, by all means go. Just focus on what you should be doing first before you use AI to do it faster.
You contributed to WordPress, didn't you? You've got like what is it, over 15 years experience, and you contributed to quite a few
A
increments
few
of
versions,
WordPress.
yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Um,
They're
what
minor
I'm
contributions. I'm not going to pat myself on the back. They were minor, but it took a lot of work to get there. Yes.
I'm sure it did. You should not downplay that achievement at all, Sonny. What I feel that AI is doing is it's augmenting everything right now, and it augments if you already have the skills and the ability, you can use it to amplify that very successfully. Also, in the same basis, if you don't know what you're doing, which feeds into what you're saying about vibe coding, if you've no idea what you're doing, then it can then spectacularly augment and amplify your mistakes as well. I think everybody's obsessed thinking that AI can literally do everything for you, whereas it's a fantastic amplifier, right?
In the right hands, yes. You need to know the biggest problem with building with AI, doing stuff with AI is you need to know what good is and what
Mm.
good looks like. Because
Yeah.
if it looks like it's good, and AI will always give you something if you don't know enough about that specific thing, it will always look good from the outside. And there's a reason why everyone is okay with vibing everything except for their own profession because they try it and they see that the results are just horrific. Just be careful when you're vibing out there, is all I'm saying.
Yeah, it's the same with writing. Obviously, my forte is writing and content, something I've done for a very long time. And, I've experimented a lot in the last few years with trying to get some good results out of it. And I think there's probably a lot of correlation between writing and coding, very similar processes.
Absolutely.
And it fails. What it is so good at is just so confidently producing an article draft, which at first glance you think, oh, this is really good. But then when you actually realize it, when you actually read it, you realize, yeah, this really ain't so good. This is just somebody confidently talking nonsense. And what I find is the more that you can put into it, the more you can feed it the value, the more I can feed it. This is my idea. This is the concept. This is the data that I have to support it. Here is some unique, interesting interview or transcripts or, feeding in as much as possible. Then you can start to get out some, it's great to use it as an efficiency tool. But if I say to it, write me an article on this subject, what comes back, I would imagine it's exactly the same with coding.
It really is. It's similar to working with Upwork freelancers, for example. If you give them enough instructions, you can expect to get good results back, depending on the freelancer, obviously. But if you don't give them the right instructions or enough details, it's not going to be what you wanted. I guarantee you that. It might be good, it might look good, but it's not going to be exactly what you had in mind. You have to be very detailed with AI giving all the instructions if you want to get good output out of it. It's absolutely possible. It's doable. It's not as easy as they make it seem, as those vibe tools make it seem. It's not a one prompt magic. There will never be one prompt magic doing anything with AI.
Yeah, I actually managed to successfully, I like I say, I'm not a coder, and I did actually manage to successfully vibe code and hack a Python script at the weekend. I was highly impressed. It took me a lot of work, and I did know exactly what I wanted, but I'm pleased to say that I eventually got there and managed to create a script that circumnavigated having to use NaN, which so that was quite interesting. Um,
Incredible.
yeah, I mean, I was blown away, but then I do have, I might not be a coder, but I've got a lot of technical understanding. So I kind of can understand what I need to ask it.
Yep. Curiosity is more important than it ever was doing these
Yeah.
things.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I think curiosity is probably one of the best skills, not skills, qualities that any person can have for anything. Um, just wanted to ask you actually one last time. What would you recommend, like an SEO? Name a process or an agent. So somebody like myself who's not particularly technical, what would you recommend them to try and actually put together as an agent? Just so that they can break in there, and make a start.
I mean, one of the most obvious answers would be something that does crawling and analyzing pages at bulk. So maybe start there and start looking at your pages the way an LLM would just to get started. Of course, that's not something that can be a product, that's not finished work. But if you want to get started and if you're in SEO, I think it's highly relevant to understand how the systems and machines are doing it. So maybe start there.
And could you hack that with Python?
You could also, Cloudflare just announced they have an API endpoint that lets you crawl entire website in one API call, which sounds like magic, but it works. It gives you markdown versions of all the pages. I'm not exactly sure how I haven't tried it, but I saw a lot of people write about it on LinkedIn. So maybe try that. Get 200 pages scrolled at once, and then look at patterns, analyze them, and whatever else you want to do.
Excellent. That sounds really interesting. I might try and have a look at it myself, although I do have a list as long as my arm of
We
things
all
that
do. We
I'm
all do.
trying. I
We all do.
know. It's like, when do we sleep, Sunny? When do we sleep?
Yes.
Well, thank you very much for your input and your IMHO and coming on the show. And so for anybody that wants to connect with Sunny, please, Sunny, where should people find you?
LinkedIn, if you just search for my name, you'll find me there. I have an uncle with the same name, but I beat him in rankings everywhere now. And nohackspod.com is the best place. That's the podcast home. There's articles there. There's all kinds of stuff. So yes, if you want to follow the work, nohackspod.com.
Yeah, and I'm just going to say that Sunny's written some excellent content on his blog that I've been reading recently, so I would highly recommend it. And also check out his podcast, which I saw on YouTube. So thank you, Sunny, for being my guest.
Thank you very much for having me.